There we go.
Awesome.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are here for an intro to the Declare Label and Living Product Challenge. The session was organized by the Living Future community within Built Environment Plus, and our mission is to promote socially just, culturally rich, and ecologically restorative communities within Boston and New England. We're excited to dive into material data and transparency, but first we have a quick one-question poll, which Built Environment Plus will launch, just to get an idea of who is in the room this morning. All right, so we are mostly designers and one consultant. And we are excited to have with us this morning. Could everyone see the results? Okay. So we're excited to have with us this morning Lisa Carey Moore from ILFI. She is within the impact team and is the director of buildings. And with that, I will just pass it off to Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I think I know most of the people on the call, except for perhaps one or two. And I'm just wondering if we could do quick introductions just for the folks I don't know. I think we have time and we don't have too many people. So if we could just popcorn around, that would be great. Ryan, why don't you start? Because I'll just call on people as we go around quickly.
Sure, sounds good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan, and I'm an associate with Built Environment Plus, and I primarily support the Built Environment Plus communities. And since this is a Living Future event, I'll be the BE Plus staff person on the call today. So yeah, looking forward to listening to all you're going to offer, Lisa.
Awesome. Diane.
Good morning, everybody. I am the Director of Sustainability at an architecture firm in Cambridge, Massachusetts, PCA, and also here as a representative of the Living Future Community. Yes, that Collabo chapter. Thank you.
Jim.
Great. Jim Newman, hi. Principal at Linnean Solutions, local consultancy. And one of the several co-facilitators for the Living Future community, of which we speak.
Atiana.
Good morning. My name is Atiana, and I am a communications associate for Built Environment Plus.
Sarah.
Good morning. I'm a principal with the Green Engineer Sustainable Design Consultants. I'm also the BE Plus board liaison for the Living Futures community. And I'm happy to be here this morning and to learn some more about the Declare label.
Michelle.
Hi, I am an architect at PCA architecture firm in Cambridge.
Claire.
Hello, I'm Claire Colburn. I'm a senior associate at Feingold Alexander Architects.
Good morning. Who have I missed? Jacob.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm an architectural designer at Cambridge 7, an architecture firm in Cambridge.
Kali, I think is the last.
Ollie. It's
Yeah,
saved
hey,
me.
everybody.
Sorry, Colin,
No
go
worries.
ahead.
I'm Kali. I'm a sustainability manager at the Houston Zoo and formerly a director of sustainability for an architecture firm. But yeah, glad to be here.
Good morning.
Great
And
to
Meredith,
see you.
I saved you for last, just in case you.
Meredith, Executive Director at Built Environment Plus.
Great. So good morning, everyone. Lisa Carey Moore. I'm actually in the Boston area. I'm actually sitting up in the North Shore this morning, and Ryan's going to be running my my slides that I'm going to share with you. I have just a quick introduction to ILFI, and I've been with the organization now for just over a year. For a decade prior, I worked on many Living Building Challenge projects, and my area of probably deep expertise and love is materials. So Declare and Living Product Challenge really speak to me as a member of the practicing community, and now as a member of an organization that is responsible for those label programs as well as building certifications. So these are just some quick objectives that we have for today's session, and hopefully, you know, we'll not only whet your appetite and give you more information as to what we're trying to do through Declare and Living Product Challenge, but enable you to actually use the labels and to share information about what the labels do with others in the community, so we can really lead the transformation of the building product marketplace. Next slide. So I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. At ILFI, we believe it's time to imagine a living future and a world of living buildings. And we also believe that we need living products. And the reason for this is because we have, since our inception, way back in 2009, felt that the way we look at the world as practitioners needs to change. And we have to change how we view not just the places where we live and work and play, but the products that we make and how we view those products and use those products. And really, this is essential because it's about how we see the future. So our mission is to lead the transformation toward a civilization that is socially just, culturally rich, and ecologically restorative. And there's a lot packed into those phrases. And part of what we'll do today in exploring Declare and Living Product Challenge is unpack how we get to these objectives. So if you've been in the ILFI community for any amount of time, you hear this phrase, what does good look like? It's not about doing less bad. It's not about mitigating or reducing, but it's about regenerative. It's about trying to do better by every act that we take in the building community. And by the building community, I mean the manufacturing community of products that support us. So we do this through a number of different programs. We have Living Building Challenge, which is our flagship program. We have Zero Carbon, and that is probably right now our most popular program. That is, we have, you know, many registrations every week for projects that are interested in zero carbon. It's also one that I will observe is very popular with people who have control over portfolios, many buildings, many millions of square feet. We have Zero Energy, which for us is kind of like a stepping stone into our community. And we have the Core Green Building certification. And I'm not going to get into our building certifications today, but we will talk about, when we talk about Declare and Living Product Challenge today, we will cover many of the imperatives that are also essential ingredients to our certification programs. And the last program that we're going to not really talk about today, but is JUST. So JUST is another label program that ILFI offers for organizations in order for organizations to sort of investigate how it is that they run their company, their sort of employee rules and how they work with their employees. And basically it's a label for employees and what good looks like as a company. So at the heart of all of what we do is this philosophy of regenerative practices, healthier materials. And what we mean by healthier materials is reduced toxicity, as well as materials that are better for carbon and have lower embodied carbon. Materials that are also not having negative impacts along the supply chain. That is how the philosophy is structured. And then we have sort of discrete objectives within each of the areas of practice or areas of focus. And we call them petals, water, equity, beauty, place, materials, energy. All of those have discrete elements, but really we're based on this philosophy of what does good look like? How can we do better? We're not overly prescriptive. Advocacy is also at the heart of what we do. It's about having conversations every day with people we work with or entities, manufacturers or others who we interact with, and challenging our community to do better. So in the realm of products, we're asking manufacturers for transparency, and we're advocating to them to be transparent about their ingredients and to optimize their product chemistry. And certification is it's how we get there. So with all of the conversations that we have and the shared philosophy that we promote, we do have structures that allow for buildings and products to achieve a status that they can communicate and celebrate with the outside world and hopefully serve as beacons. So these numbers are from our 3-year strategic plan, which if you haven't looked at it, is a fabulous document. It really covers the philosophy of why we do the work we do, how we do the work we do, and the and the objectives that we have for the next 3 years. So some of these numbers are out of date. Declare, in fact, we're well over 1,000 labels, and those represent 16,000 products. So 16,000 products that are covered by the Declare label. Over 250 manufacturers now. So just in the last couple of months, we've seen tremendous growth. And I don't know if Bella is going to mention it later, but one of the categories, for instance, we're really excited about is that we have all of the laminate manufacturers. So that used to be a category that was troublesome because of formaldehyde in the adhesives. We now have an emissions exception for that. And we now have labels for every single laminate manufacturer out there. So that is huge, especially for projects where, material cost is really important. So whether it's an affordable housing project or, just a project that's looking to try to reduce their cost on a product by product basis, having that option in the suite of options is really important. Next slide, please. So again, at the heart of this conversation today is transparency. We can't change what we don't understand. All right. And what I discovered in my work and what was so fulfilling about my work with manufacturers for so many years was that once we had the discussion about why, there was seldom argument about the why. Everybody believes that we should be doing better for the most part relative to human health and the environment, that we should really be trying to reduce and remove any negative impacts. So you get beyond the why and then it becomes the how. And this is where manufacturers taking the plunge into their supply chains and understanding what's going on is super important. So next slide, please. So we have these labels: Declare, Living Product Challenge. Those will be the topics of two short videos that my colleague Bella Garcia will discuss today. And then, as I mentioned, we have the Just label, which is for organizations. Next slide, please. So I touched upon this, but again, it's a graphic. And for those of you who have seen our graphics around our building certifications, you've seen a similar graphic for those, which is, we're not just trying to reduce the negative, but we're trying to actually increase the positive. So one of the concepts you're going to hear about today is this idea of handprinting. Okay, I think we're all familiar with the concept of footprint and the negative connotations of that as a negative impact. And handprints are actually positive impacts that we expect from especially our Living Product Challenge manufacturers are the ones that really pioneered this idea of handprints, and it's had a spillover effect now into our project realm. So it's a pretty exciting concept. Next slide, please. I'd like to say that the Red List is one of ILFI's superpowers. All right, no other certification program has this sort of mandate as we do to really investigate and dig into the chemistry of building products. We are also pioneers, not just in the building industry, but in industries across the board. So when I participate in working groups where, whether it's the Breast Cancer Coalition, Clean Production Action, Sustainable Business Council, where we're talking with a wide array of NGOs, advocates, manufacturers, they're like, wait, you have a label program? You have a list? Because this doesn't really exist so much in the policy realm, right? We have tens of thousands of chemicals that are out there in the marketplace, but we only regulate about 400 of them. So there's this huge disconnect between what's out there in the market and what we need. And really the Red List is at the heart of the work that we do. Next slide, please. So again, this is at the basis for Declare, and Declare is part of Living Product Challenge. And it's an Excel spreadsheet with chemical abstract numbers. It's not a sexy tool, but it can be used by everyone. And in that, you can download it from our website. You can share it with the manufacturer, and you can say, hey, if you don't have a label yet, like, I'm really interested to know if your product has any of these chemicals. And of course, they'll freak out and say, that's not possible. And that's when you point them to Declare and you share some of the labels, or you even point them to the Health Product Declaration Collaborative and their labels and say, this is possible. Manufacturers, hundreds and hundreds, if not over 1,000 manufacturers have participated in the labeling process. Next slide, please. So we have a 100 parts per million threshold. That's what we're looking for in our Declare labels. And the reason why we're talking about 100 parts per million is because of this well-founded understanding that really a little goes a long way in terms of harm. And this is a study that was done, I forget how many years ago now, called The Little Things That Matter. And basically they looked at blood samples from children across North America, and they found these chemicals of concern, contaminants in mercury. 89% of children sampled, okay, and mercury is toxic at 6 parts per billion. So if you look at these numbers, and then you look at the fact that we have a prescribed pharmaceutical, Ritalin, that's effective at 15 parts per billion, it becomes very quickly evident that we have a problem, right? We have a problem because small doses can really have significant impacts. And you can Google after our discussion today, chemicals in the environment, health impacts, and you'll get now hundreds of hits, and you'll get John Oliver talking about PFAS. So this is not a secret anymore. Next slide, please. And again, the Red List is at the heart of living product certification, and the video will go a little bit more into this, but for living product certification, we're going beyond Declare, which is kind of based on the Red List and more recently embodied carbon, to the whole sort of life cycle impacts. So the living product certification is really about the holistic approach that a manufacturer will take in assessing their products. Next slide, please. And again, when we talk about holistic, we're talking about the whole of the life cycle, upstream and downstream impacts. We're talking about not just the manufacturing site and a specific product necessarily, although a lot of the labels are for specific products. You can bet that the analysis that these manufacturers are doing to get to that granularity for a specific product or suite of products is benefiting the entire manufacturing process. That knowledge is. So next slide, please. I'm not going to click into it now, but I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to visit the Declare database. The blue butterfly represents our living product challenge certified products, and that little red dot indicates Red List free. There's no chemicals of concern. My colleague Bella will talk a little bit more about the distinctions of the labels and the naming conventions there. But it's really the easy button. This is where people go when they don't want to have to, think really hard about reading a label. They just want to know is it good? And Red List free and Red List compliant represent best in class in the marketplace for products. So I think the next slide should bring us, let's see, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that's not the next one. This should be an image of Bella, which means that Ryan, if we can transition from this program, I'm going to stop for a minute. And I just want to assure you all that we're going to move into the videos now. So if you have any questions, again, the videos are going to dig a little bit more deeply into each one of these products, Declare and Living Product Challenge. So I think with that, Ryan, can we switch to the first?
Yes, one moment.
Great. Hi, Galen and Rebecca. I think you've joined us since we did intros.
Hello. I actually have to
Hi.
step away briefly, but I hope to be back very soon.
Okay.
Can everyone see?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bella Garcia. I'm the program manager for the Declare program. I'm here a little bit today to talk about the basics of the Declare program and some helpful resources for designers. So moving forward into the International Living Future Institute. So the International Living Future Institute is a nonprofit dedicated to envisioning a future that is socially just, culturally rich, and ecologically restorative. They have several programs to help achieve this mission, with the main and original one being the Living Building Challenge. And so today I'm just going to be talking a little bit about how Declare fits into the Living Building Challenge and deep diving into that program a little bit more as well. So to start things off, we'll be talking a little bit about the main question and the main drive behind the program. So the initial question that we started out with is, shouldn't we demand the same information from the materials we buy as the foods we eat? And so we use the food industry and nutrition labels as a model and a reference for the Declare program. So previously, food did not need to be disclosed about what was in it or any nutritional information or anything like this. And so this lack of transparency between within the consumers allowed for a lot of ingredients that were harmful to consumers or prevented consumers from making informed and healthy decisions. And so due to the hard work for a long time on behalf of consumer advocacy programs and outreach, this information is now very widely available on all ingredients and all foods that we eat. And we are hoping to bring the same sort of transformation to the built environment and the building industry as well. And so right now, products are a little bit of a black box. It's hard to know exactly what ingredients are in the products that we work and live around on a day-to-day basis. And so Declare program is hoping to shed some light on what ingredients are in these products and are these ingredients healthy. And so we're hoping to allow consumers to just feel more empowered and just improve transparency in this sector. So looking at what does this physically look like on the Declare label, here is a sample Declare label here, and as you can see, it's grouped into several sections. So in that top section up there, this will include the product and manufacturer info. So product name and manufacturer will be listed front and center. Underneath that will include the final assembly location. So this is where the product is assembled before being available publicly. The life expectancy of a product, so how long they expect a product to last, embodied carbon information, and then end of life option. So this is where does a product go at the end of its life. The next section is the ingredient reporting section. So all intentionally added ingredients up to 0.01% or 100 parts per million that are present in the final product are listed out here. And so these are color-coded and communicate different things. So for instance, any ingredient that is flagged in red is an LBC red list ingredient. And then the next category is the LBC watch list. So these are items flagged in yellow. And so the watch list is ILFI's list of ingredients that are not currently on the red list, but are up for debate, and we are seeing whether these would fit on the red list. So it's more of a heads up for things that might happen in the future and just give a little bit more transparency to where ILFI is moving and where the red list is moving. The next section underneath it would be the exceptions. So as you can see here, there's listed out a formaldehyde and a proprietary ingredients exception on this sample Declare label here. I'll talk a little bit more about what the exceptions physically mean a little bit further in this presentation, but this is where they would be listed on the Declare label itself. Now that last section on a label is the Living Building Challenge criteria and whether or not a product is compliant with it. So the information displayed here is the declaration status of a product, VOC content, interior performance. So this basically says a little bit more in detail about the different VOCs and whether or not they meet certain standards. And then lastly, the responsible sourcing section. So this has to do with wood and whether or not this wood was responsibly sourced. Other information kind of in this bottom section here is the expiration date and then whether or not a product is third-party verified. So third-party verified is an optional component to the Declare program, but this sticker here says whether or not it falls under that category. So this is a little bit of a deeper dive here, just shows specifically where these sections are on the Declare label. And we are hoping to use Declare to answer a few questions very easily. So we're hoping to answer, where does a product come from? We're hoping that manufacturers and consumers can quickly see where a product comes from. What's a product made of? So we're hoping that at a glance, you can see whether or not any red list ingredients are flagged on this label, and this will help consumers make quick and easy decisions on whether or not a product is healthy or not. And then what is the embodied carbon of a product? So the embodied carbon initiative is a little bit newer to the Declare program, and right now we are just building out our database and including more and more Declare labels that have this information featured. So any products that have an EPD are eligible for the program, and we include this information on the physical Declare label itself. And then just to tie it up a little bit further, are there any toxic chemicals in it? So this goes back to that red list component, and hoping to help manufacturers and consumers at a glance know exactly what is in a product and whether or not it meets red list standards. So we've been talking a little bit about the red list. Let's dive in a little bit deeper and see what physically is the red list and what that means. So the red list is a list of chemicals by CAS number that is created by the Living Future Institute. These are a list of chemicals that are considered the worst in class. So these are chemicals that pollute the environment, are bioaccumulating, are harmful to construction and factory workers. And I think that's very important. ILFI distinguishes chemicals that are harmful across the life cycle. So products that can harm the construction and factory workers are also included, and not just chemicals that only affect end users. And lastly, as well, the red list kind of dives into chemicals that are very prevalent in the built environment and the building industry. So just due to the Living Future Institute's background and built environment focus, we specifically chose chemicals that are prevalent in the built environment. So a red list free product contains none of these chemicals, and they typically have to go above and beyond because a lot of the chemicals on this list are so prevalent that manufacturers typically have to take additional steps and go a little bit above and beyond to ensure that their products are red list free. And so we've talked a little bit about the declaration statuses. So here they are in a bit further detail. So red list free means that 100% of ingredients are disclosed and no red list chemicals are present. Red list approved means that 99 to 100% of ingredients are disclosed and red list ingredients are present but covered by an existing exception. And so just to dive a little bit deeper into the different exceptions that we would allow, for instance, we understand that it can be hard to gather 100% of your ingredients information, especially within certain sectors. Different chemicals are highly proprietary and would be very, very difficult to get the exact makeup of those ingredients. And so we allow for up to 1% of a product by weight, as long as there's no red list ingredients present, to be covered under this exception and not displayed on the declare label. Another example of an exception that we have is for formaldehyde. So as long as your formaldehyde meets certain emission thresholds, it can be featured on a declare label and approved for red list approved status as long as the certifications are present. One of our final status or exceptions that we allow is the small electrical components exception. This is typically for lighting manufacturers and other products that have electrical components attached to them. And so we allow the actual electronics themselves, so the drivers and the LED boards, to be covered under this exception. And each of those individual components don't need to be disclosed, but larger components, so the housing for the drivers, for instance, would need to be disclosed. And our last status up on here is the declared status. So this means that 100% of ingredients are disclosed, but red list ingredients not covered by an exception are present. This kind of goes back to Declare's main focus of transparency. So as long as these ingredients are disclosed and you're upfront about what exactly is in your product, even if your product has a red list ingredient, it can still be eligible for a declared label. And so kind of diving a little bit deeper and expanding on that previous idea, Declare is the only certification that combines material transparency plus the red list. And so we believe in material transparency. We believe in showcasing the ingredients that are in your products. And so we are one of the few labels that combines this level of material transparency while also screening against the red list to allow manufacturers and consumers to see what specifically is in their product and if any of those ingredients present are on the red list itself. And as a concluding thought for this segment, we spend 90% of our lives indoors. Let's spend it in healthy spaces. So and more people are spending all of their time inside. And so we are hoping that the Declare program will help push these indoor spaces and make sure that the products that we surround ourselves with for a majority of our lives are not harmful to human and environmental health. And so switching gears a little bit now, we're going to be talking about different resources that are available within the program and different databases that information will be featured on. So first and foremost is the Declare database. So every single Declare label is publicly published on the Declare database and can be searched, and we have different search features and tools for this as well. I'll be elaborating on that in the next slide. Some other databases where information is automatically added to is Red to Green, Ecomedes, and Material Bank. And so just expanding a little bit further on the Declare database. So every single product that has been certified under Declare is featured in this database right here. You can learn a little bit more about Declare through this database as well. So if you have any other further questions that you would like to research further into, the Declare database has all of those resources available as well. Going over the different search functions from left to right, we have the program. So this allows you to see Declare products that have a Living Product Challenge certification attached to them. And it also allows you to search by third-party verified labels and also the embodied carbon elements. So if labels have embodied carbon, you can search specifically for those labels. The next filter is the declaration status. So you can search by those various declaration statuses that we discussed earlier. So red list free, red list approved, etc. The next is alignment. So this allows you to search by the different alignments and whether products fit into other programs as well. So for instance, you can search by LEED and see what products are also certified and can get you points in LEED. Or also, one of the new filter options is the Enterprise Green Communities. So if a product meets those standards, you can search and use this filter option to see these specific products as well. The manufacturer option allows you to search by specific manufacturers. CSI Division is a good search tool if you have a certain product type in mind. So if you want to specifically look for furniture or paints or anything of that nature, then you can use the CSI Division to kind of narrow down the scope of the product that you're searching for. And then finally, location. Declare is a global platform. We have certifications for countries all across the world. And so location helps you kind of just narrow down what place of origin you would like to search for. Another database that I found to be pretty useful is the Ecomedes Declare base. And so what you can do here is search for individual products. So one Declare label can cover many products within a product family. And so the Ecomedes database helps you kind of narrow that search function a little bit further. So as you can see here, there are 16,000 individual products in this database, and you can use this database to search for each of those individual products and learn a little bit more about each product specifically. And as one of the final slides, here we're going to be talking a little bit about the alignment and how Declare ties into other environmental programs as well. So first of things first is the Living Building Challenge. Declare labels align within the Living Building Challenge and meet standards for the materials and the health and happiness petals. Declare also ties into LEED, and so various Declare labels can get you points in LEED of V4 and V4.1 for these two different options there. Declare also ties into the Well Building Institute, the US EPA, and also the Enterprise Green Community Standards. So there's a lot of different alignments that Declare falls into and can get you points in all of these various other environmental standards. And so that's kind of the main overview of the program. Just to wrap up things on Declare, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to declare.support@living-future.org. We'll be happy to send you any resources, answer any questions you might have. My name is Bella Garcia, and thank you for taking.
Okay, that was an abrupt end. But Bella's out in Washington State, so it was a little early for her to join. So you know, I'm the East Coast time zone stand-in here, and I thought we'd take a second. I'm going to hopefully not kill my bandwidth and share a screen, but I did drop in the chat the Declare website, because I thought we could do this together. And basically, I'm gonna start by, if you type in ILFI and declare living future, declare, you're gonna get to this main page. And if you were a manufacturer, you might start with get the basics, but also get the basics is really good for practitioners who are trying to learn how to have a conversation with manufacturers about materials, right? It's the why, it's the discussion of why the different red list classes like PFAS or antimicrobials or flame retardants, why are we concerned about these things, right? It gives you that foundational knowledge so that you can be an effective advocate and do the investigative work if you are working with a manufacturer who doesn't have a declare label. But if you click on view the database, you're going to get to the screen, and basically, as Bella said, under each click, you have Living Product Challenge certified. So for our projects, for our living projects and our core projects, you're required to have Living Product Challenge certified products. Or you can click declare and third-party verified. So for instance, if you're working in LEED and WELL and looking for those optimized material transparency labels, this third-party verification is going to get you in those certification realms, additional points for the products. And then we have the pilot for declare and embodied carbon. And this is something we've been piloting just over the last year. So it is, the expectation is we're really going to see expansion of products that have both the chemical optimization as well as the embodied carbon information right at your fingertips, because that's what we want, right? You want to be able to look at a product holistically and to select the product that's best for all of these different attributes that really just, is the grand slam of products, because it's going to work really hard to do better. And so to the extent that even if you're not working on a project that is getting, certification with us, or you're not pursuing those credits for LEED and WELL or Enterprise Green Communities, I'm going to say it, you should be doing the right thing. You should be trying to use as many products that have optimization as possible in your daily practice. And if you haven't started, you start with one. And then, in a month, you add a few more. If you're an interior designer, make sure, get comfortable with, I don't know if it's going to be coatings or flooring or ceiling tiles, but figure out what it is and then make a difference there, make an impact there. Okay. I think I can speak from experience. It feels very hard at the onset, but then as you get used to it, it is the most rewarding thing to know that you're not just doing your job and meeting a deadline and handing over a deliverable, but you are having these co-benefits many times over. So again, click through here. Hopefully, not during like the videos today, but we can spend a little time later. You've got the declaration status. You can see declared, again, are just transparent, right? Declared products have red list ingredients in them, but we still want to reward them, because again, if you might be in a product category where there's no win. And that's the recognition, or the goal in those categories is transparency, right? That's the first step. Transparency will get us to optimization. So don't just avoid declared all the time, because sometimes you might need them. Again, alignment, we keep adding, we keep trying to reach out and partner with new programs so that we can show the overlap. And again, the co-benefits. If you have a particular manufacturer in mind that you're using, again, you can search by manufacturer. And here's my pitch on manufacturers. If they don't have the product that you want labeled, but they have a product labeled, it means they have the person who can do the work. Okay, they've done it. They've done it before. It's not a foreign language. So don't shy away just because your manufacturer doesn't have a label for their product yet. Maybe they have an HPD, Maybe they just have an EPD. Maybe they have a cradle to cradle label. Okay. All of those are stepping stones towards optimization. CSI division is helpful, obviously, if you're writing specifications or you have a publicly bid project and you're trying to find, 3 in a particular category. And then there's location. So I just wanted to take a moment to, share that with you, because I thought it's worth it. And does anybody have a question in this moment about what we've discussed so far? And then I think we're ready to queue up the part 2 with Bella and Living Product Challenge.
I have a quick one for you, Lisa.
Sure.
So this is Jim Newman, and you have always been very eloquent about just getting started. If you were, somebody who understood the issues but had not really stepped in, like many of us, what would be your first step? What would be the first thing that you would look at? Would that be declare, or would you take a step in through some other route?
So thanks. That was great. Thanks, Jim. I would start with the manufacturer's website. Okay, because today's savvy manufacturers have sustainability all over their website if they're a company that you want to work with. And so go to their website, check it out, and most of them proudly will have connections to these external sites, like Bella talked about, EcoMeads and others. Mindful Materials, I'm sure people have heard of Mindful Materials. I know they had a pop-up in Boston, I think last month at Dyer Brown, and they're going to be partnering with EcoMeads and bringing sort of their approach that they have developed over the last 6 years, which is basically to be a repository. But there are lots of repositories. Okay, so UL Spot is repository, Mindful Materials is a repository. Any Declare is a repository for our products, but Cradle to Cradle has all their labels. Okay, so basically, as Bella said in her presentation, if you go to those platforms where they link all the different things together, you're going to have a ton of information. Okay, but start with the manufacturer, because if you really want that product, that's the product you want to specify, or that's your favorite, I don't know, insulation or flooring, then start there and see how they're doing, see if they have those labels. And if they don't have them, that's your first flag. Then you can come to Declare, you can go to the UL Spot, you can search their name, and that'll kind of give you a sense. But Jim, I think a lot of people get started with, they might do this in the work world, or all of a sudden they have a child, they're having a baby, or they're renovating their home, or they're doing something that's in their smaller orbit, and they think, oh, I've heard about these healthy material things, and I feel like maybe I should look into this. I can't tell you how many people get in touch with me about that. Lisa, what's the paint? What can I use on my floor? What can I? Someday there will be. I think it's a matter of scale. That's the frustration, is if you're working on a terribly small project, whether it's a home or a small environmental center or an interior fit out that's super small, sometimes it is challenging to get optimized materials in small quantities. So I think Mindful Materials and other repositories, that's something we're trying to work on at ILFI. I'm trying to create a network of people so that if you need 1,000 linear feet of optimized electrical wire, you can partner with others who also need, because most manufacturers have a 10,000 linear foot minimum to make you the better wire. So it's not ideal, but that's just, it takes time. Okay, so I think unless anyone has an additional.
One more quick question, Lisa. This is Jody Phil.
Hi,
Just-
Jody.
Hi, do you have an idea or a sense, and I know it obviously depends a lot on how many manufacturers are adding new product or joining, but do you have a sense of how frequently Declare is updating?
So yeah, I mean, we have manufacturers who are coming to us every week, either to renew a label or to create a new label for some product suite that they haven't labeled yet. And you might have missed it. I just said it sort of in my intro, that we're now at 16,000 products are represented by Declare labels, and we have over 1,000 Declare labels. So one of the things that you know, all I can say is check back. We have had requests from people about sort of notifications, like, how can I get notified when there's this great new flooring, or, oh my gosh, somebody finally put an adhesive or a sealant on Declare. Yay! You know, that would be, we'd love to have more of those like toolbox products, if you will. But right now it's kind of check in and see. And you know, we try, I think we have a new communications marketing, a couple of team members, and they're really good about putting stuff out on the ILFI's, you know, social media platforms. Like I see those go out pretty regularly during the week, and they will make the announcement like, hey, all laminate flooring manufacturers are now on Declare, come visit. So I think, yeah, I think
that's fantastic.
Those are some ideas. Sure thing. Okay, so Ryan, I think this will queue up Living Product Challenge, and you know, I will say that I didn't introduce Bella because I thought I had a slide in my intro presentation. She's a manager with our materials team, and our materials team, buildings team, and the Just team are all part of the impact team, because we're all trying to transform the marketplace. There we go. There's Bella. Thank you. And I put Bella's email in the chat so that folks can reach out if you have additional information.
Can everyone see okay?
Yeah, the gray, I'm getting like the gray, I think because you have, is it the multiple windows that causes the gray boxes to appear? But you've been effective, Ryan, at getting rid of them. But I see those every once in a while. They're popping up.
Okay, yeah, no, Jim, let me know that when I open the chat, a little box appears. So I'll make sure not to do that anymore.
It is infuriating when that happens. You're like, why is this happening?
All right, here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bella Garcia, and here I'm going to talk about the Living Product Challenge. The Living Product Challenge is a program that reimagines the design and manufacturing of products to be as beautiful and functional as anything in the natural world. The Living Product Challenge is the world's most advanced standard for healthy, sustainable products. We're accomplishing this through materials transparency and life cycle disclosure on one label. This helps manufacturers rise above greenwashing and show healthy attributes of products through disclosure and transparency. The Living Product Challenge asks, what if instead of doing less bad, we reimagine how we design and manufacture products? So in essence, what does good look like? Another way that we like to think about this is, how can we imagine products that make the world a better place? The Living Product Challenge accomplishes this through creating a framework. This helps manufacturers create products that are healthy, sustainable, and most importantly, give back more than they take. The Living Product Challenge combines both life cycle analysis and material health onto one cohesive, easy-to-read label. On the life cycle half of things, this combines carbon emissions, energy usage, water usage, waste footprints, or some of the negative aspects of waste, and hand printing, which is a unique concept to the Living Product Challenge that I'll go into further in some of the following slides. On the material health side of things, a third-party verified declare label is a key component of the Living Product Challenge. So this combines all the same benefits of the declare program, including material transparency down to 100 parts per million and screening against the red list. Just to give a brief overview, the red list is a list of worst-in-class chemicals. These are chemicals that pollute the environment, are bioaccumulating, are harmful to construction and factory workers, and are prevalent in the built industry. A red list-free product contains none of these chemicals. So the Living Product Challenge is the only certification with handprints, and so we'll be going a little bit deeper into what handprints are. So for instance, if footprints are the negative aspects and impacts that we leave behind, our handprints are positive impacts we make. So everyone's familiar with carbon footprints and how these are negative carbon usages associated. So we're trying to imagine the opposite of this. What are positive impacts instead of these negative impacts? Another key component of handprints is that handprints are measured in the same units as footprints, so you can compare apples to apples. And so just to tie it all together, this is an example of a Living Product Challenge label here. And so we'll just be going down each of the key components, and this will help just address some of those handprinting questions that anyone might have as well. So going from top to bottom, this label tries to answer the questions of where does a product come from and where does it go at the end of its life. So at the top here, you see manufacturing locations. We put an easy to read map there so people can quickly and easily see where your products come from. The next section is the certification level. And so as you can see here, there are different petals and imperatives that manufacturers can reach. So the petals are different aspects of your product. So here we see different petals being place, water, energy, health, materials, equity, and beauty. Each of these imperatives are subcategories within the petals. So you can meet certain imperatives within each petal, and we have different certification levels. So petal certified means that you meet the core imperatives within the required petals, and you can also achieve full certification, which is all 20 of 20 imperatives achieved. Over to the right-hand side, you can see the life expectancy, end of life options, and functional unit for the product. So this kind of helps answer some of those questions of where does a product go at the end of its life. Underneath all of this are the footprints and handprints of a product. So as we can see here, the footprints are those numbers underneath the blue bar. So these are the footprints that this product uses. So for instance, in the cradle to gate footprint, they have a certain number of carbon emitted, but their life cycle net positive. This means that their handprints outweigh their footprints, and in total, this product is sequestering more CO2 than it uses during the emissions process. And similarly, you can see that for water in terms of being life cycle net positive. This means over a product's life cycle, it is net positive. You can see the same for the energy and the waste impact as well. So for the waste impact, 97% diverted from landfill. That's the minimum that must be met in order to be considered net positive for this section. And so there are various ways to meet this. For instance, if you have solar panels, this can generate some of that extra energy and make up for some of the energy used during the manufacturing process. So handprints allow manufacturers to be a bit creative as well, and just think of new ways that they can help the community around them and reimagine products that in the end turn into a net positive gain. The last aspect of the LPC label here is the declare information. So as a declare label is required as part of this process, we include all of that information there. So the red list compliance. This label is red list free, meaning that there is no red list ingredients present. Red list approved means that 99 to 100% of ingredients are disclosed, and a red list ingredient present is covered by an exception. Declared is 100% of ingredients disclosed, but they have a red list chemical not covered by exception. All the chemicals are listed out and screened against the red list, so anything red would have shown up flagged as red on that chemical ingredients list over there. And this also just allows extra transparency to any consumer so they can physically look and see what specifically is in their product. Some other information includes whether or not this product has also participated in our JUST organization, whether this product has been material health transparently assessed. So for instance, here 95% of the materials in this product have been assessed, and we confirm that via that sticker there. It also includes information on who has verified this information, a label name, and then expiration date. The Living Product Challenge is the only certification that combines material transparency, life cycle disclosure, and hand printing. And we try to wrap this all up in one easy to read label so that not only is this the most comprehensive environmental certification out there, but it also encourages manufacturers to do more than just disclose the various elements of their manufacturing and product creation process. It also allows manufacturers to go that extra step. And we believe this also gives them a unique marketing edge, and that they can tell these different stories that they achieved and what they their story that they had to go through the Living Product Challenge process. And in the end, this helps build community. It helps build a story around your product and make each individual product a lot more meaningful. So here is the challenge here to find products that do good with the Living Product Challenge. You can find this information on the Declare database. We can have search features that allow you to search by which Declare labels have a Living Product Challenge certified. And from there, you can just find more information on your products and learn more about the Living Product Challenge itself. If you have any further questions, my name again is Bella Garcia. You can reach out to declare.support@living-future.org for more questions, or my email is bella.garcia@living-future.org. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So I was going to ask to share, let's see, I'm going to do it two ways, just again, in case folks are having connectivity issues. So in the chat, I'm sharing an example of a case study. So like our projects, living products need to have case studies, which is just, a short description of how they achieved the Living Product Challenge, and what they're they're celebrating their accomplishments, but they're also pointing to areas where they can improve. And again, what I love about this program is again this concept of handprints, this concept that it's not just about doing less harm in the manufacturing of your product and the supply chain, less harm in the supply chain that delivers the goods, the components for your product. But it's thinking about ways to address those footprints in a positive way. And a very simple example of this from one of our first Living Product certified manufacturers was from Humanscale. They certified one of their task chairs or office chairs, and thinking about the handprints that they could make. One of the areas they needed to address was energy, and so they thought, okay, well, we're going to, in every package that we ship, we're going to include an LED light bulb, or I think it was actually 2 or 3 LED light bulbs, so that everyone who receives this chair has the ability to change out a standard incandescent bulb and put in that LED bulb. And so very simple, right? Like not a high-tech solution, but something that pays it forward. and also told a story, because the people who ordered the chair were probably surprised to get the light bulb, right? Like, what's this? I did not order this from Human Scale. And they get this story about handprints. And I think it speaks volumes to the potential we all have, even in our daily lives, to do something beyond our project boundary, whether it's our home or our office or our neighborhood. Like we have that potential, to offset. And I know, there are people who purchase carbon offsets for travel and stuff like that. That essentially is a type of hand printing that individuals can do. So what questions do we have? I'm not going to share my screen because I think most of you probably clicked the link, but any questions or comments or?
So this is a great opportunity for us to take a minute and think more broadly about how some of these things that we've just seen, the Declare label, the Living Product Challenge, and some of the associated pieces of information can serve us or not serve us, going about the things that we go about doing. I notice that Galen is back, and I may put him on the spot by asking him a question. Yeah, there you are. So one of the questions I have for you, Galen, is as we sort of look at trying to upgrade the procurement policies around Massachusetts in different ways, how might these tools be, how do you see them as being useful in the various ways? You both are sort of come from a program perspective, but also play somewhat of a role in a sort of a larger agency perspective.
Absolutely, and I have been kind of obsessing about that very question since I learned about this. It was a really wonderful presentation. I understand this quite a bit better now than I used to, and I used to get my allergy shots right next to that Assa Abloy facility in New Haven that on the Declare on the label that you just sent us, which were probably much more toxic than anything in that product. But putting that aside, it didn't really help me with my allergies either. But yes, I have thought a lot about the procurement side of this, and am very curious as to whether any any jurisdictions at the city or state level have thought about adopting this on a voluntary basis, because it certainly seems like the amount of public procurement that occurs at again both the public at the public level, both the state and city level, that this would be a great way to add an additional layer and intervene and push procurements, particularly beginning perhaps with schools where you have exposure to more vulnerable citizens, that they should be considering all of this. So I know that there's a couple of states, for example, that have some somewhat modest, but nonetheless, I think impactful embodied carbon procurement standards, including New York and California. But I'm wondering if there are any jurisdictions here or abroad that are beginning to take more seriously the broader kind of health impacts of a wide variety of products, and particularly the built environment, where of course we spend so much of our time and have so much exposure.
Galen, that's a great question. And I think that there's huge potential. It's a Declare and Living Product Challenge are recognized eco labels by EPA. So, if you're working on a government project and looking at government procurement docs, both the labels as well as certifications are recognized. I think that we're in this strange space where, because a lot of the chemicals that we're concerned about with our red list and our labels are not regulated, it is come from the private sector and owners, whether corporate entities or universities or such who have been pushing this movement, right? I think that dynamic has shifted dramatically in the last year because everybody knows about perfluorinated chemicals, PFAS. Okay, PFAS has totally changed the landscape since I've been involved in this movement, because all of a sudden the common person, the elected official, the regulator, regulating agency, all know that there's a problem. And everybody is going, it's like the ah shit moment. Like, it's in our drinking water, it's in our bodies, it's in the air, it's in the soil. We have dairy herds in Maine that are, have to be slaughtered because they're so contaminated. Farmers who can't farm. It's really an awful story. But it has created a synergy that to this moment has really not existed, where there's this recognition of, okay, we need to work together at different levels. So you have states that are promulgating passage of PFAS legislation that the first step is transparency. You need to tell us what's in your product. So all of a sudden we have manufacturers that are scrambling to figure out how to do that. Well, we have a way to do that for building products, and other product manufacturers, whether it's clothing industry or personal care products, are also kind of trying to figure out how to make that happen. So I think as a recognized eco-label, we're ready, and we are in like government procurement, guides that are too many hundreds or thousands of pages. We're there. So it's really about I think at the state level, identifying opportunities for saying where procurement, who's procuring, and how is it that we can begin to put in place a requirement for transparency first, and then optimization. I mean, when I worked with Mass Save to get my, energy audit and then to work with a contractor to do insulation, I drove them nuts, because I said, I want what are your specs? What do you guys use? And they're like, what do you mean? You want to see that? And I was like, yeah, I do. So they gave me the list, and I was like, you can't use this is a maybe, and I'll look into this. And they said, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And after we got through that process, this contractor was like, well, why aren't we just doing this? Why are we using this stuff that's harmful to our workers? But that's part of it. Like, that's, so Galen, here you sit, right? And we can have these conversations now, because again, we have PFAS, and PFAS is not necessarily in all of our insulation products, although it's in some. So we have this moment. And I think that as soon as the state says there's a better way, and this is the way, and if we're giving you money, thou shalt follow this way, then, I can be agnostic. Yes, I should be saying in this moment, you should use Declare LPC, but I'm going to be agnostic and say, you can use a cradle to cradle, certified product that has a silver, gold, or platinum material health score, because that's pretty well aligned with the red list. I'm willing to be agnostic because we have a lot of tools in our specific ecosystem to do so much better than what we're doing, and again, as soon as Massachusetts, I mean, it was this community, our living community, that participated with the various NGOs in Massachusetts to get the flame retardant bill passed. And we brought a lot to the table for that, because we could bring manufacturers to the table who said, it's totally possible for flame retardants, because man, it's an added element and we don't need to add it, and we don't want to add it, and it's okay, we can take it out. And all of a sudden the legislators were like, oh, the manufacturers are saying that's okay. Okay, it's not that Governor Baker's concern of crushing our economy. No, we're on the cutting edge, and it's okay. We can innovate, and we can be there, and we can be aligned, by the way, with the EU, where they're way ahead of us in terms of regulating and using the precautionary principle and putting the burden on industry to test and retest and get third-party verified before they bring stuff to the market, right?
Right.
So Galen, I'd love to chat, and I'm sure this community would love to chat with you about what opportunities there are for healthy procurement. Because, man, for Division 9 and Division 7, you know, you've got your finishes and your insulation materials. We've got hundreds and hundreds of products. It's not like 10 years ago where you didn't have enough to sort of be publicly bid. We've got them. So
Right. Well, those seem like a handful of the right initial paths. One would be the state's leading by example program, which is, you know, led on funding at levels that I believe are far too modest, but you know, funding high performance buildings in the public sector and other kind of energy transition infrastructure, like, you know, EV charging equipment before that was a thing, and so on. And then Mass Save, I think, is another good intervention point, right? The DPU regulates the PAs, and we should be looking at blowing agents, and we should be looking at what's injected into cellulose and so on and so forth, and pushing there. And then there's just general DEP guidance for DCAM and procurement. So I think that you attack all of them, but it's going to definitely take some education. And of course, we have a change of administration coming up in a few months, and I think that there will be a lot of opportunities to, I think actually a very important and unique opportunity to reach people early before they become overloaded and cynical, to be perfectly candid, and have these conversations and educate them about the opportunity for state leadership on healthy materials. I also think we should figure out who at the state's public health division to engage so that they're strong and powerful allies in this. And it's not just about, so the burden isn't just on EEA, but it's in fact shared by and supported by the state's public health officials.
Yeah.
That's a great description, Galen. I knew you would have something good to say.
That would be, that's my recommended political strategy.
Yeah, very good. Good political strategy. And unfortunately, Kali hopped off because I was dying to ask him the same question.
Right, with his unique perspective.
Purchasing for the zoo, which, you know, it's got a whole different, very specific thing going on, which is pretty great. Anybody else have thoughts or questions that this is all brought up for you as we make our way through this? Got a few minutes left.
Oh, just very quickly, I think it is also an opportunity for us at Mass EC. We have, some of you are probably aware of our fairly robust technology development program. So we provide grants to Massachusetts-based clean energy innovators. And we are occasionally, we don't see many, but we are occasionally approached by innovators that are bringing us, you know, some kind of energy efficiency or renewable energy or demand management, some kind of clean energy related technology, but there's an environmental impact component to their innovation. In fact, we've funded some PFAS remediation technology, not because we care officially about PFAS, although many of us do personally, but because it had the promise of remediating PFAS with a much lower energy budget, which was of interest to us, right? Because this is a major concern for like wastewater treatment plants. So, yeah. But whether it's batteries, right? Whether it's some of the, you know, there's some legitimate concern and criticism about some of the components in really critical clean energy technologies like batteries for EVs, the heavy metals that are used, so on and so forth, the ingredients in PV panels. Of course, you have to think that obviously the benefits of renewable energy far outweigh the relatively small footprint, but it doesn't mean that we can't improve on that footprint. So I do think there's an opportunity for us to also issue challenge to the energy innovation space and say, we want you to continue to bring us your clean energy innovation, but we also want you to think about the materials that you're using in the manufacture of those products. So I think there are opportunities for Mass EC as well.
That's a great thought. Okay, we're getting close to the thing. I'm going to do a little wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. So great. to get a chance to hear you, which, you know, we miss. You sort of, you get kicked upstairs and we don't get to hear you so much.
I got sucked up and I disappeared. I do feel like that. I'm like, as if some alien ship came along and all of a sudden, even though my location hasn't
Right.
changed.
Nothing really has changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So thank you. And there are a couple of quick things I wanted to bring up, and then I'm going to hand it off to Ryan to sort of close us out. We have a couple of things coming up. We have something that everybody should participate in, which is a walk in the woods coming up on September 24th. Take a look at the BE Plus calendar. We're going to do a little biophilic discussion and walk around at Stonehurst in Waltham, which is a lovely estate with some homestead landscaping and Little Richardson building, and talk about biophilia and sort of the effects that we're hoping to engender. Should be fun. Bring the family. It's a walk in the woods. And then we also have our next roundtable coming up on October. When's our next roundtable? I've totally forgotten.
Yeah, first Thursday in October.
First Thursday in October. Okay, thank you. And I invite you to join that. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Ryan. Unless Diane, do you have anything else you want to add?
And so we are planning to pick up to talk further about material data and transparency and the value in our environment and our workspaces. We'll be picking that conversation back up for our roundtable in December. So that'll be the first Thursday in December. And again, check out BE Plus's website to get all the details from that. And thanks, Ryan, for dropping lots in the chat. So we'll head it off to you.
Lots of good stuff in the chat. Yeah.
For other things happening in BE Plus.
Yeah, thanks, Jim and Diane. I just popped the links to both of those events from the Living Future community in that chat, as well as the link to the BE Plus bike tour, which is put on by our emerging professionals community. We're going to be exploring Boston waterfront developments in South Boston, the Seaport District, specifically looking at the changing climate and sea level rise and how environmental design and resiliency plays a role in those properties. And then we have our Green Building Showcase, our annual Green Building Showcase on October 27th at Harvard Science and Engineering Complex, which was last year's winner. And we're currently accepting award submissions, display boards, looking for sponsors, and selling tickets as well. So you can use that link to check all of that out. And then I put my email down there. If you have any questions about those upcoming events or how else to get involved, would love to connect with you.
And I'll just say that Harvard did the materials pedal for ILFI's materials pedal. So they use the red list for a science and engineering building fit out. So pretty big deal.
Perfect.
One of the reasons we love to have events there, because it's such an interesting example of really pushing on materials.
It was so nice to be with you all. Thank you. And thank you, Ryan, for dealing with the technology.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Galen. Thanks for hanging out.
So thank you all.
Thanks all. Bye all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Take care.